Okay, so before we begin, I had some technical difficulties while recording this reading. What it came down to is that I had my audio recorder going and I was doing the reading, and then afterwards I look up at the camera and I noticed that it's only on standby and it didn't record the actual video. So the reading itself, I cannot repeat that. So what I did instead was I took the audio recording and I reenacted the actual movement of the cards. You can still follow what's going on, but it won't be the live shuffled version because that one was just not recorded. So it's going to look a little different, but I didn't want the reading to go to waste. So hopefully you'll still enjoy it. And with that out of the way, let's get into the reading. Hello everybody, welcome back to another reading. Today we're taking a look at the case of the 45-year-old fitness instructor Terry Leann or Missy Bevers. Most people called her Missy. She was found on April 18, 2016 at the Creekside Church of Christ in Midlothean, Texas, where she regularly held fitness classes. Normally fitness classes would be held out in the church parking lots, but there had been a storm before dawn that day, and Bevers had informed her students that the fitness class would be held inside the church due to the unfortunate weather. Now, Missy herself was last seen on surveillance footage of the church entering the church at 4:18, preparing for her upcoming fitness class, which was supposed to start at 5 a.m. And shortly after 5 a.m., a student of hers entered the church and stumbled upon her body. They called emergency services, and she was pronounced dead shortly after police arrived. When she was found, she had several puncture wounds on the head and chest, and the police alleged that these wounds were consistent with tools the suspect was carrying throughout the building, and the suspect being a person who was caught on that same surveillance footage, wearing a full SWAT outfit, including a helmet, going from door to door, occasionally breaking glass and opening doors there, but not actually taking anything. And although police did not confirm whether it was the weapon of the murder, a hammer was found alongside other tools near her body. Now, unfortunately, the cameras outside the church were not functioning on that day, but the ones inside were. And like I said, they caught a person walking around at around 4 a.m. They have no idea of the gender of this person, and obviously not the identity. They say that it's not quite possible to tell whether it is a male or a female. They even brought in Michael Nurnberg, who is a forensic podiatrist, to study the suspect's gait, and they stated that the person's gait is affected by the weight of the gear and the weapons, and that there is no relationship between gait and gender. So they concluded that the suspect's gender cannot be determined solely from their gait. Now, after this discovery was made, her relatives were questioned during the investigation. Her husband, Brandon, and her father-in-law both had an alibi. Brandon was in Mississippi fishing, and her father-in-law, Randy, was in California traveling. Now, the father-in-law became suspicious when he showed up at a dry cleaner's trying to turn in a bloodied shirt. He later explained that the blood was from a dog, actually spilled by two dogs when they were fighting. And the Midlothian police performed a forensic analysis on the shirt, confirming the absence of human blood and the presence of dog blood. It says here, sources revealed to WFAA that police now believe Bevers was not only targeted, but that a suspect planned to make the crime appear as if it was a burglary gone wrong. One of the warrants filed by police claimed that the suspect possessed a smartphone with which he might have stalked Bevers' schedules and recorded her murder. Additional police search warrants allege that Bevers received creepy and strange messages from an unknown male on LinkedIn. Law enforcement was able to track down a person of interest who spoke with Bevers over LinkedIn during Bevers' last months, but the person stated that the conversation was ultimately flirtatious and innocuous. On the topic of further suspects, they are still looking for somebody who was driving a 2010 to 2012 Nissan Altima in May of 2016. They were in the parking lot of a SWFA Outdoors sports goods store located close to Creekside Church. The car pulled into the SWFA Outdoors parking lot at around 2 a.m. before leaving just a few minutes later. And in December 2016, SWFA Outdoors released the full surveillance footage from the parking lot, showing the vehicle of interest entering the parking lot the same early morning as the murder, with the driver behaving in a bizarre manner, driving circles on the store's parking lot, flashing the vehicle's headlights randomly, and then parking in a secluded area for a few minutes before exiting the parking lot onto Route 287. And as of June 2023, police have not identified the driver and have also not definitively concluded whether or not this vehicle is related to her killing. So no answers there. What might be interesting for you all to know as well is that as of 2022, a podcast called True Crime Broads discussed the case and was first launched with the intention of keeping people talking about the case. And the podcast creators also maintain a billboard advertising the $150,000 reward for any information that could help solve the murder. So if you're very interested in this case, you might want to go check out that podcast, which is True Crime Broads. So other than potentially that person who was driving that car strangely in that sporting goods store parking lot, we don't really have any suspects or answers. And that is why we're going to take a look at this case using the tarot. And we're going to start off with the Urban Tarot deck, which is already on the table. And for any further questions, moving on to the Tarot of the New Vision, which is this one. So as per usual, I'm just going to start shuffling the deck. As soon as I have a table full of cards, we're going to stop and take a look. So without much further ado, let's get started. Okay, so first thing we have here is the Six of Swords in reverse, and followed by the Moon and the Nine of Cups in reverse. So we're going to get to the Star in a moment, but I see an interesting connection between those two. First of all, though, we're looking at somebody who may have some type of a medical issue, because this card is, of course, heavily into x-rays and stuff like that. You see the snake, which is usually about venom, which can also be used as an antidote. And I'm also thinking of the swords. Well, the Six of Swords is normally people being taken to a different location, possibly against their will. So maybe they have something in their system that's making them act a certain way, may hijack possibly what would normally have been common sense, or hijacked whatever would normally make them happy, like they may have some type of clinically induced depression or something, some type of medical issue here that may have been attempted to be treated with medication, but it's not helping, or it's made things worse. At the very least, they feel very much down in the dumps over here, which they kind of have made peace with, because they are kind of now the new ruler of this underworld that you can see over here. The rat, or whatever that is on the left, it's a huge rat, by the way, or the crocodile on the right, they appear to just be doing whatever this person tells them to. She's able to keep them at bay, and she's completely covered. The dress reminds me of the dress of the person on the Star. We'll compare those two in a moment, but in the very least, this person is not feeling happy in any way, shape, or form. So I'm going to put this one aside for a moment, and I'll grab the Star over here, because I feel like these two are the before and after. And here you have a drain, which could very well be this one over here. Like maybe initially they were like super up above board, even though there's lots of trash around them. They may have grown up in an area where things were not well. They were able to make do, and they may have had a very positive period in their life, like standing out among the crowd in a bad situation type of thing, but then came the fall. And I feel like when this card popped up, the first thing that came to mind actually was that he may, or she, I don't know, have looked upon Missy and seen what they wished that they were, or how they felt like they could have maybe turned out, or there's some type of jealousy here. I feel like they're looking at them like, that could have been me, or that should have been me. And then they set out on some type of almost like a quest to try and figure out what to do with this. They may have sat on this for some time. I feel like, by the way, in case it wasn't already clear, which sometimes I just start talking and I don't explain what I'm talking about, which is always very handy, but I feel like this is the perpetrator that we're looking at over here, their backstory. So after they came to the conclusion that she was everything that they wanted to be, or everything that they could have been, or they felt some type of connection or something, they had like a focused mind, And normally the Two of Pentacles is focusing on like, what shall I do with my finances? What shall I do with my resources? Need to balance everything properly. Kind of like planning stage of that. And they may have been kind of planning what to do with this information. This may be the stage where they were possibly observing her to try and figure out who she was, what she did. May also be that they started taking notes of the schedule or something along those lines. They're very practical information, and of course I didn't even notice that, but now I'm looking at this and this is somebody exercising, so they may have actually been a part of the club at some points. Kind of looking at the mirror person there in the mirror person in the mirror, very obvious. But they may have either tried to be like her by doing extra fitness stuff, or they may have actually joined the class at some point to try and get close and maybe trying to mirror her that way. Something like that. It seems to be that they're definitely looking at her like, oh my God, that's exactly who I strive to be. And then on the next row we have here the Eight of Cups in reverse, or not able to walk away. This card is called Indolence, and it kind of reminds me of the progressed state of, I think that is the Four of Cups, where you have a couple people, I think that was called Luxury or something along those lines. So they have a couple people that are just sitting on their couch and they don't have any motivation to do anything because they just kind of like have everything that they could possibly ever want. So why would I get up and do anything? And in this case, we see what looks to be a computer screen with some bunch of stuff around it, a bit of junk here and there, and a whole bunch of cups, which may be also pointing toward that same type of vibe, like I have everything that I want, and what more can I do? What more should I do? So here we have, oh, there's like a little creature that they made out of pins over here. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even see that. There is a little thing here. I'm trying to bring it up close so you guys can see it, but there's like almost like a matchbox or a eraser or something, and they put a bunch of push pins in it and put one of those staple removers on the top right there. Can you guys even see that? Hopefully you can. And then you put one of these paper clip things on top with little hats, as in, oh, this is now some type of a knight or something charging. So they've done everything that they possibly can in this situation. They tried all the different avenues and they're just kind of bored of the options, and that's why they decided to leave it all behind. But in a way, since it's in reverse, there are certain things that they cannot leave behind, certain things that they cannot ignore. They may have tried to ignore it for some time, or maybe try to get some satisfaction out of just being close or keeping track of what she's doing, but that may not have been enough after a while. Next card is the Three of Pentacles, so we're working together with somebody. We have here the Public Defender, which is the Queen of Wands with something on top of that I do not appreciate. Queen of Wands in reverse though, so we are working, but we are working very hard for our own things and things that may not be the best of intentions here. And we're focusing a lot. So whereas before this may have been a sign of them keeping an eye on her and to try and figure out what she does, this may now be the enormous focus and effort doubled, because the Eight of Pentacles is called Prudence, but you see here what looks to be like a watchmaker, and they are very meticulous as well. And the Eight of Pentacles is always about focusing, like the craftsman that really focuses on their craft to make everything perfect. So this with the action of the Queen of Wands in reverse, and also a work here. Maybe somebody was working with them, possibly not aware what the actual goal was, but they were like really working hard and trying to figure out as much as they possibly could. And maybe this is also where the plan was born. And then we have over here Victory and the Aeon, which is Judgment. So the Six of Wands over here, somebody being looked upon as victorious, maybe also they were starting to show some results of working out, because we do see somebody who is just winning a marathon, I think. So maybe they were actually getting compliments on how good they looked, or they were complimenting somebody else on how good they looked. Maybe they were complimenting Missy, either online or in person. And then we have Judgment over here. So there is admiration possibly, but there's also literally that mirror image again. Like they feel a disconnect, but they want so much to be the same person, it seems. Kind of like with this again. So there may be some, also the same infinity symbol is also here. So I think that's also connected, but this is the more mature version, or the bigger, stronger version of that. So on the one hand, they may have appeared to be an admirer and possibly praised her for all the hard work, or maybe being praised because they were doing similar fitness trainings to look better themselves. But then there's always this feeling in the background of, oh, but I'm not them, so I'm never going to be quite like them. And that may be where some type of jealousy set in. But let's go on to the New Vision Tarot to see what more we can learn about this person in this case. So this deck always shows the other side of the known card. So basically, if you were to have a regular, this is the Nine of Cups, for instance, normally you would see somebody sitting there with a whole bunch of cups behind them, looking very content. And this is like, if you were to turn around the camera, then this is what you would see. So that's what this deck is all about. So here with this Nine of Cups, we see kids that seem to be playing, and they have everything that they want, again with that type of indolence. And also with the toys, we have the toys over here with the Eight of Cups over there. So maybe there's like a reference to somebody being almost a little childlike, somehow still playing with stuff, having a bit of a childish side to them. Next to that, we have the Knave of Pentacles in reverse. Knave of Pentacles being somebody who normally would spend things very rashly. So maybe they started spending money in a very careless way on things that were probably not the best of ideas. So maybe this is also their enthusiasm. They went on a shopping spree because they probably made a plan or something. This may be the shopping spree that got them whatever it is that they felt like they needed for that plan. And then we have the King of Pentacles in reverse. Okay, yeah, we're spending a lot of money here, and it's not well thought through. They do have, well, they're sparing no expense, basically. So normally we would be looking at, there's also the guy holding a bull by the horns. That's interesting. So normally you might want to try and control your spending to try and get the everything under control and make sure all the right bills are paid and stuff like that. I feel like this card is really showing complete abandon of any sort of sense. They feel like they have enough money to do all the things that they want, and they really don't care much about how much work it took to get there, because you also see like a person in the field over there harvesting. So this person is overviewing possibly some people working, when you put it upright like that, overviewing their domain, watching people work for them while they make their plans and spend things carefully, which may be a good lordship type of situation. But in this case, it's like, it doesn't matter how much it costs, I'm gonna buy it. And that's where all this spending comes in. So it starts off maybe a little slow, and then they're like, oh yeah, this is definitely what I need, and then start paying lots of money for lots of things. So if they were to look for somebody, maybe also check their expenses. They probably would already do that, law enforcement, but still, I mean, they obviously looked for somebody who was maybe recently coming into possession of a SWAT outfit. I don't know if you can even buy that. Let's see now. There is a card that rolled out and fell on my lap. And then we have the Five of Cups. All right, so Five of Cups normally walking away, or rather not, well, these guys are walking away, but this one over here is lamenting what they lost, unable to see what they still got. And those two in the background are also walking towards a river as well. Like they're almost saying like, oh, it's okay, we got plenty of water just streaming down here. We can just grab a drink over there. Don't worry about it. Like that. And this other person, of course, is super ignoring the cups that are still upright behind them. So they are not looking at any of that. They seem very glum. So maybe while they are spending a lot of money, they also cannot stop to look at, like, why am I doing this? I don't really need to do this. I don't have to be this person. I don't have to go after this person. I have everything that I actually need, and I'm not them, but okay, but I have all these other things in my life that I could work with. Like, they're totally ignoring that aspect of life and having a single focus on the things that they really wanted but can't get. Well, people around them are just going about their business. They may actually be somebody who has complained so much to other people about all the things that they lack, that people have started to turn their back on them, and that's turned them into a sad loner. Like the type of person that whenever you talk to them, they also have to turn the conversation back to what's wrong with them, and they can't be happy for anything or anyone else. All right, so now we have the star in reverse, and we're looking at a starry sky as well. We have a torch with a star in the ground, which is interesting, and there is a person over there with a bag slung over their shoulder, almost like a thief in the night type of situation. Like, okay, the star is not aware that this is even going on. All the light is on them, and they have a light around them as well with this torch. And then there's this person sneaking around in the background whom is not being noticed, and they probably also want it that way because they do not appear envious in that card. They just want to have everything quietly to themselves. Queen of Wands is here, and the Two of Wands. Okay, so we're making some plans here. Now, the Queen of Wands is very willful, but we're looking at the back, of course, and then we see what I'm guessing is like a lady in waiting, tending to a girl who appears to just be some type of farmer girl, like they're approaching them and maybe being a good Samaritan, something like that. Like maybe while they're doing all this stuff, they may also be trying to appear extra good, almost like avoiding suspicion, and also possibly housing animals, because this is actually just supposed to be like a stone relief in the back of this seat, but it makes it look like the cat is sitting on the hat of the lady, like they're also taking in cats and animals and just being a generally good person, quote unquote. And then we have the Two of Wands. So while they're busy being a good person, they're also making their plans, overlooking whatever it is that they want. Looking at the seagulls, which is interesting. Seagulls can be really, really rude. And also there is a jester in the background. Okay, so that's interesting. It's almost like two sides of the same person that are being represented here. Like you have somebody who is focused on their plan, and in the background you have like a jester sitting there, kind of like not doing anything. They look defeated. Like maybe there is this side of their person that has tried to make things cheerful, and like the other thing, like trying to walk away, do the right thing, and focus on what you do have. But it's been so long since that has worked that that side of this person, or a person in their life who has maybe tried that, has just given up because it's just not gonna work out. All right, what else can we find about this? Because I think we're still in the preparation phase. Let's see what we have. We have a stack over here. I'll grab these first, and then we'll get to this stack. I'm gonna put you aside for a moment. There we go. We have the Knave of Wands, so that's the Page of Wands. Okay, so the Page of Wands is also known for taking rash actions, and once again somebody is walking away. So earlier we saw this jester kind of hanging on in the background, and now that they seem to have made up their mind with this Knave of Wands, whoever that was or whatever sense they may have had in their system just decides to take a torch and go, because the night is falling and it's time to move on. We then have the Ten of Swords. There is somebody in the background looking at this person. They look very gloomy. So this feels to me like there is no other choice and this just has to happen. They're purposely with their back against the dawn, looking at the terrible scene and ignoring anything else, like ignoring any other input here. So this one fell on its side, so I'm going to keep you like this, but I'll grab the rest in a moment. So we have here now more walking away and ignoring things. We're ignoring the fireworks as well. We're ignoring the city in the background. It's almost like lots of people maybe knowingly or unknowingly noticed that there was something going on with this person and trying to cheer them up and trying to involve them with things and trying to invite them to parties or things. Like there is always this person who seems a little lonely, and people tend to, the people who are like empathetic to that will try to involve them in things, but it looks as though they purposely avoided any and all attempts to do that. We have a Hierophant in reverse who may not have been listened to either. They may actually feel like God and religion has turned their back on them, or they've turned their back on their religion, like this isn't working for me. We have the Nine of Pentacles. Okay, so we also don't have any sort of satisfaction in regards to our finances. Well, we just spent a lot of money, so it makes sense that they would now feel broke. Then we have here the Knave of Swords, which is the Page. And the Page of Swords tends to run off and do and say all sorts of stuff head over heels. Also, their thoughts are usually racing. But what's interesting about this card is that it's shown that they're standing on somebody over here. They're standing on someone's head. Like they're literally going out over other people's heads in order to achieve what they want, possibly also ignoring other people's thoughts on the matter or whatever they may have known about it. They're ignoring any and all suggestions for doing things better. Queen of Cups in reverse, so we're either manipulating our way emotionally around these people trying to stop us or try to involve us, or we're trying to emotionally manipulate people into helping us out in ways that they may not know will lead to the result that it leads to. And then we have the Ace of Swords, which is interesting because you have a charging horse in the background. At least the person is making the horse rear up. And so this seems like an initiative that is undertaken very quickly. This is a thought that comes up, maybe a thought that they could not push back down. And that is something that they act on immediately. Things that are growing well on the vine, so possibly also this may be after the fact actually, because this person is looking at the stuff that they are about to reap. But there's also a spirit over there overhead, so maybe whatever sort of guilt they may be feeling is lording over them quite a lot. They may be dreaming about her, they may be seeing her in the crowd, they may be feeling her presence at night, that type of thing. Then we have here the Empress, but she is looking the other way. She's looking at a gate that's open that goes to a path, so I feel like he may have left whatever protection an Empress may have been able to afford them. And there's a couple of kids in the foreground with a swan. I'm not entirely sure what that could mean. Those are like the innocent types of representatives. And also this pillow over here has a lot of the female symbol on it as well. So maybe he is just ignoring or being ignored by potentially a mother, an aunt, or a grandmother who may have once been in a caring position for them, or they're actively avoiding them. And we are also not in harmony with anybody because we have here the Four of Wands in reverse, and there's people celebrating in the background. They're also not really looking at us. And pretty much life goes on without them. I feel like there may have been things going on. They may be noticing, particularly when people are having good times, like they may feel like they're once again stuck in this terrible situation, which is now of their own choosing, and being haunted by the choices that they made and possibly feeling haunted by Missy herself. And they're noticing all of the stuff that is happening around them that actually would have been nice to attend to, but he can't. It's kind of like that song, Painted Black, you know, I see girls were buying their summer clothes, I have to turn my head until my darkness goes, like that. So they're feeling pretty hard put upon, even though it's of their own choosing and their own making. Now, I feel like we're past the date where everything happened. Are we going to figure out who this is at some point? Let's try to get some cards on that. So are we ever going to learn who this is, and are we ever going to find them? Oh, this one, the Dancer, the Princess of Wands, which is the Page of Wands. So I feel like they might be slipping up at some point. Like the Princess of Wands or the Page of Wands, whatever you want to call it, is somebody who is fairly impulsive. As you can see, they're playing with fire, and they don't seem to care too much about the outcome. They're just there to have a good time, to entertain and stuff like that. It's purely an entertainer, this Dancer, and also just living in the moment. So maybe they'll slip up one day when they're just out doing stuff, and they might start to, I don't know, throw some things out there which you probably don't think too much about whether anybody's going to notice. They might do some things, like they might suddenly put something in the bin somewhere that is related to her crime, and they won't think about it, like they won't give it a second thought. Oh, there's another card that just jumped out. So what do we have here? Queen of Discs. All right, so the matriarch here, the Queen of Pentacles, may be supporting them. And this may be somebody whom they spend a lot of time with. So even though we saw people turning their backs on them, we may actually have somebody at play who is taking pity on them, I feel. And they may be noticing this behavior and wondering about it. 10 of Wands, called Oppression. Now this card is never really sure to me, or at least certain to me, whether this person is coming or going in jail, because they do appear to be entering jail. They do not appear to be very happy, so I imagine that they are not in a good spot. But in any case, this is a 10 of Wands, which is normally somebody carrying a burden to a final stage. And I do feel like maybe this person who's taking care of them is taking care of them while they're locked up for something else. So they may be in jail for a completely different reason. That might also be how they became connected in the first place. Like this person may be somebody who likes to correspond with people who are in jail, or it's somebody whom is actually related to them who started taking care of them more once they ended up in jail because they kind of felt like they had to as the matriarch. We have here the Prince of Discs, which is the Knight of Pentacles, the Day Trader. So somebody here is very practical. I feel like this is once again a reference to the matriarch here. Like they notice something odd and this person's like in jail or something, and then they decide, this person decides to just kind of keep a log. You can see like an Excel spreadsheet in the background there, and this is of course a trading spreadsheet, but in her case or their case it might be that they're just keeping note of things like the daytime and what they noticed, just in case there's something interesting going on that they should possibly want to keep track of. And then we have here Knight of Swords. This one is called the Game Master. Now Knight is actually the king in this deck, so the King of Swords is very sharp, and they may be trying to play 3D chess over here, or 4D chess in the background. This may be the matriarch, or it may be a combination of the two, like whomever the perpetrators may be aware that something's going on, then they may be trying to stay ahead. And of course the matriarch probably is also not a dummy and is trying to get something out of them still, trying to figure out if they can learn anything from them. Then we have the Princess of Discs, which is the Page of Pentacles. We're spending things incorrectly. Again, the kindergarten teacher over here does things impulsively, possibly still with that childlike joy that they might be showing. So I think we're being flanked by the actions of the perpetrator here. So they haven't actually matured much, and they're just doing whatever and they're spending whatever, but there may be a little bit of an awareness, like, hey, maybe they're asking me these questions for a specific reason. I need to be careful what I say, stuff like that. But possibly the matriarch is smarter than they will give them credit for. Okay. The activist, the Princess of Swords, so that is the Page of Swords. Again, we had the Page of Swords earlier as well. So they might be speaking before their turn, saying things that possibly they shouldn't have said. And then we have the Sun. So now we might get that aha moment, I feel like. We already have the radiance of the sun around the matriarch over there, and now we have the actual sun coming on. So maybe somebody is in contact with the perpetrator and they are taking care of them in a way, or assisting them somehow because possibly they feel obligated to do that, and then they start to notice certain things, they start to keep track of things, and eventually they end up clicking with something, I feel, even though the perpetrator themselves appears to be trying to build some type of smoke screen to try and stay out of trouble. They might still figure something out. And then what do we see? Because the sun may just be that aha moment, but will they be able to get in contact with people and figure things out? We have here the Mage, which is basically the magician. It's kind of on its side. So there may be a period of, what do I do with this? Like they might withdraw themselves for a while once they've had this aha moment, and then try to figure out the best strategy to go about this. They might be trying to figure out who to contact, what would be the wisest thing to say to them. Do we have enough information? Like, are they going to laugh at me when I say I think I know who did it, because they don't think I have enough information, or I'm seeing things like they're going over their options and going through what they've gathered to try and see if it really holds water. That's the vibe I'm getting of that card. And then we have the Wheel of Fortune, which kind of landed like this. So I'm going to take it upright, so things might suddenly move very quickly. And there is like this here booth here with a psychic symbol, which is interesting. So she may also have something to do with that, or maybe somebody who has certain intuitions as well. But I think once they figure it out, the wheel starts to roll, and that might be the end for them. And then we have Justice on its side, which is interesting, because you would expect there to be like, oh, finally vindication, we figured out who it is. But then we have Justice on its side. So maybe I feel like they don't want to stand trial for it, and they may already be incarcerated. So there may be some other type of out that they're opting for, which may end up with like unaliving themselves, or some type of way to avoid any type of consequences for that. Kind of looks like it. Like maybe the justice that we end up seeing will not be very satisfying. I feel like that's what this card is trying to say. Like eventually to figure it out, and then there's some change, but it's not quite as sunny, I suppose, as you would hope. But we might still see some type of conclusion, which is at least hopeful that we might learn some more about this case at some point. So that is what I'm seeing for Missy Bevers. I hope you found that interesting. In any case, make sure to leave a like and a comment. That really helps the channel along. If you want to subscribe, that's even more appreciated. I hope to see you in another video. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye for now.